If you don't know anything about the house and the seller doesn't know anything about the house and you're just listing it, and that happens a lot. People know nothing about this house. And I'm just like shocked. Like I'm looking at the buyer's realtor going, you didn't know that? How did you not know that? Your job is to know what they're about to buy.
Right.
Am I wrong?
I mean, you mean the seller's realtor? You said the buyer's realtor. So
no, the buyer's realtor.
Oh, the buyer's realtor. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I used you on an inspection on a property that we pulled out of. Looked clean. I always now, from this experience, suggest you open up all the closets, including the water heater closet. Do you remember when we worked with, it was one of my hoarders. Actually, it was one of my hoarders. We were up in Westlake Village at a condo.
Oh, yes.
And it was super clean and super pretty and didn't smell like mold. Usually I can smell the moisture when I walk in.
I forgot about that.
And you took a video though, and you shared it on your YouTube.
Yep.
And the first thing you did was open up it was the AC, the HVAC closet. Yeah.
Furnace closet.
And it was covered in mold, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. All underneath, it was like
right in front of you.
I was like, oh my God. And you know, she was like, this client already had issues with mold. She's had issues with mold in literally everywhere she's ever lived. And that's like, she's like, will you please check for mold? And I'm like, it's going to be fine. Don't ever tell them it's going to be fine.
Ever.
And never deter anybody from getting a mold inspection. If that's what they want, you give it to them.
Right.
Especially if you smell moisture in the house.
That's good advice for other realtors.
Yeah.
Yes. They definitely don't ignore
that was the one transaction I did, because prior to that, I think I had one other client ask me if they thought they should get a mold inspection, and I said it's up to you. And now I'm like, you should get a mold inspection every time.
Yeah. If there's any question about a mold from a customer, get it done. Just put them at ease. Otherwise, they're going to dwell on it for the whole transaction.
I'm like the live and learn person, but that was a big learn.
Yes. And by the way,
there's a lot of mold.
I'm going to put that link to that video in the podcast description. And on the YouTube version, I'll also put a link there so you can watch that, because that really happened.
So open up those closets.
So let me explain. Let me explain that to everybody, how that happened. So typically, what I normally do, as I mentioned earlier, when I go into a house, before I turn on the heating and cooling, I always check the filters. And this had a vertical furnace in a closet with the return right below it, which is a typical scenario on like a condo or a townhome or something like that. And bam, I open the door and there's just black all over the place. And then I pulled the covers off the furnace, looked inside the plenum area, and the right side of that plenum wall was the kitchen sink. So just on the other side of that wall was the kitchen sink. So, you know, it was just a small unit. And it turns out, if I remember correctly, it was the condensate line that was leaking into the wall. It went into the wall. So you really had to look for it, but there was mold everywhere.
Yeah.
So
you had to demo the kitchen.
Yeah. Did you get a quote on that? I remember you told me it was pretty expensive, like 30 grand or something to fix it. They had to pull all the walls out.
You know, we had two different people come out and they gave us disparagingly. There was a huge gap between. I had like the cheap guy and I had the expensive guy.
The scammer and the non-scammer.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like one of them was like a $6,000 estimate. The other one was like a $25,000. Plus that you had to remove the entire kitchen and walls and drywall and do everything and a portion of the floors. And
I believe
this adorable little place was like probably the reason that the person who lived there before it passed away in the house. They were older and they'd been there for many years and got sick. And I mean, who knows? I mean, they could have died from something else. But like, it's not. I'm sure it didn't help.
Not at all. No,
it was black mold.
Even if you have a respiratory problem. I'm pretty sure the air samples I took also came back positive.
Yeah, it was like the worst kind of mold you could
Stachybotrys.
Yeah.
That's Stachybotrys.
Yeah.
Stachybotrys right there. So yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
I remember stuff.
I just want to add a few more things to, stay on point here with, pre-listing inspections, because I really pushed that hard. We already talked about the safety hazards. Water pressure is another thing that you are not going to know about, and more times than not, it's out of control in the house.
Right.
And that can be why faucets are running. Toilets are running, faucets are dripping.
And let me give you an example.
Sprinkler heads are broke.
Of a water pressure regulator being out.
Okay.
In my house, my water pressure regulator for my irrigation system went out, and I had a huge flood. This was like 4 months ago. We couldn't get it under control. It was like thousands of dollars to try and find where the leaks were, to finally get them capped off and repaired and all of the things. And then when my plumber looked at the other regulator, he said, this is the same age as the other regulator. Do you want to leave it? It's functional. I'm all, no, replace it. Yeah. I mean, because...
Well, you're lucky you had a regulator on your irrigation.
Right.
Most houses don't.
No, we did. And it was old. So I'm like, I don't want the same thing to happen inside my house as it did outside. So that was an awakening for me because I never digested the information when being told multiple times that a pressure regulator is old or not working properly, what the repercussions could be. And I was able to see it in my own house and spend my own money. And it was rough. It was a rough experience.
Yeah. I suggest anybody that owns a house, check the pressure once a year.
Yeah.
Just go buy a $20, $15 gauge at Home Depot, take off your hose, connect the gauge, turn it on. And if it's past 75, replace your regulator. That's it. And I will put a link to a recent episode with Robert Dell Plumbing. We broke down water pressure and the importance of it in detail. A great video. You'll learn a lot from that. I'll send you a link to it if you haven't watched it yet. Have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Shame on you.
No. I've been watching a lot of TikTok videos.
Yep.
On how to make potatoes. Yeah.
So, outdated electrical system. Nothing wrong with having an outdated electrical system. But there's a couple brands out there that you want to definitely know is on the house if you're selling it. So you can disclose it up front so there's no shock and awe when the buyer's inspector tells you have a Zinsco brand. Worse than that is a Federal Pacific stab block. Those are the worst. There's also another brand called Bulldog Pushmatic. So
I've never heard of these brands. I've heard of the Zinsco, and
stab block.
You know that I have a story for you with that. So when you're ready for it, I will.
Yes, we're getting into that shortly. Outdated windows and doors. Anything with single pane glass is a thing of the past. It's just an upgrade. No need to panic over that. It's just the house. The owners never upgraded the windows. If you were running a central and cooling system, great idea to upgrade your windows to at least double pane. Some people like triple pane if they got the money to afford it. It's more expensive. A worn out roof. You want to know that before you list the house.
Yeah.
You really do. Because that tells you the condition of the roof.
Right.
Not the age. It may indicate that it's a 30-year-old roof and it's just completely fallen apart. But once again, just the condition of the roof is what's important. Is there multiple layers? People want to know that. So you want to disclose that. As a seller, you want to disclose that so there's no surprise.
Right.
And then it makes your transaction go smoother.
The one that I have right now, there are 2 layers of roofing, and it needs to be replaced. It's an older roof. You can see the granule. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she chose where she wanted to put her money in, and I was like, okay, we do need it to look presentable.
And when now talking to everybody about the responses from a potential buyer, when they find out it's a new roof, they're very excited.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited. Oh, it's got a new roof? I'm like, yeah, it looks like it just got put on. And by the way, the installer did a fantastic job. That's what I want to tell everybody, but that's very rare I say that.
Right.
Most roofing jobs.
I love when you say that to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I emphasize
when you give me good news, I'm like,
over again. When there's a really good roofing system installed, or a really good HVAC, I make it a point to say, whoever installed it did a fantastic job on it. I pushed that so they know, oh, wow, this thing was installed, it's new, and it was installed correctly, and it's working great. Bam. Now they're really excited. Electrical panels, when I tell them it's got an outdated panel, anything electrical you got to remember is a potential fire hazard. Right. I'm sorry, safety hazard, not a fire, not always a fire, but safety.
I always think fire, though.
Okay, that's fine.
I do.
But anything electrical can scare most people.
Of course, because you think fire.
Yeah. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So for sellers, disclose what kind of panel you have. Have somebody that knows what to look for. Take a look at it. Either get a home inspector or get an electrician to come by and look if you happen to know one. Hey, what's the brand? Is it a GE? Is it a Stable? GE's okay. You know, those are good ones, but is it a today's type conventional breaker? It's not a thing of the past, a really old, obsolete. What I call them is functionally obsolete. Because they're still working.
Right.
Doesn't mean they won't have problems. And sometimes when I look in those old Zinsco panels, I see that a bunch of those breakers have been replaced already. Mm-hmm. That's because they've been having problems.
Right.
That's how it goes. So anyway,
yeah,
those are the ones that scare buyers. These are the point. I'm just trying to point out what scares buyers.
Right.
If it's an old system. And foundations, let's clear the air on foundations right now. Most homes are going to have what's called a hairline crack in a foundation. Nothing to be concerned with. It's very common, but cracks kill people. Cracks kill deals, I'm going to say. I'm talking drywall cracks. People freak out over drywall cracks. I did an episode on the podcast all about that and what is scary and what's not scary. Stress cracks can be a sign of a bigger problem. Just a straight crack in drywall, probably just a shitty drywall job.
Right.
Well, we had a little seismic activity and it just shook it loose. You know, most of the time it's really nothing.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's really
I've
nothing.
seen some pretty severe foundation problems. And it's a hard vendor to find, first of all, to do the work, especially if it's not an expensive problem, but the buyer wants it handled. So I've never really been able to find anybody who will do a small job like that. Mm-hmm. And the big jobs are pretty expensive. So
yeah,
so that's a tough one. You know,
it is.
It's a tough one,
and it's a tough one on home inspectors because we don't want to tell you got to get a foundation inspection when we know it's just a minor crack, but we have to tell you it's there.
I mean,
that alone, it can scare some people.
When we bought our house and we pulled the floors up, we're on a slab. You could see the crack all from the front of the house going all the way through to the kitchen, right? And
that can be alarming.
And I was like, oh, that sucks. And so, whatever, we had our repairs done and everything. And I asked my contractor, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? He's like, oh, the front of your house could fall off. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's during an earthquake, not just going to fall off. So
most concrete cracks, slabs, if 10 people on a slab foundation pulled up their floors, they're going to see a crack most likely. Just fill it. You just fill it out. Fill it, check outside, make sure you get good drainage on the outside areas. That might have been what caused it in the first place.
Right.
No drainage, water sitting. It's typically the same scenario.
Yeah, I didn't panic. We had our repair done, and I'm like, we own the house now, so
hasn't fallen down yet?
Yeah, hasn't fallen down now. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Don't panic. All right, so you have a great electrical panels.
My Zinsco panel story?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So my trainer...
hang on. Let me start that again. Okay, everybody. Well, we're 2 days away from Halloween right now?
We are.
Halloween 2022, and we have a horror story for you.
We do.
So I'm going to let Stacy tell us her story.
Oh, but I have so many ghost stories. Come on.
We're going to talk about those too.
This is a horror story.
All right.
The horror story starts with my friend, my trainer, did not use me as an agent. We weren't really that close at the time when she bought her property. But I did know and have a radio show with her boyfriend at the time for quite a long time. So it was kind of, you know, he wanted to use his real estate agent. Fine. Okay. Not everybody's made for me. I'm not going to get every.
Would you like to give this person a cyber slap over the air?
Just a little. Yeah. They're no longer together, but he was like, I insist you use my real estate agent. So she used the agent. I'm not sure how the transaction went down, what it was like, what she's like. She could be a great agent. I don't know. Maybe my trainer didn't digest the information that she received on her inspection report, but there was a Zinsco panel inside of her house. She's been training me now for like 6 months, and like 3 weeks ago, she's like, yeah, the lights, she's first time homeowner. The lights in my basement and in my kitchen have been out for, I don't know, like 3 months now.
What?
And she's never home. She's one of those who's a new homeowner and is never home because she's working constantly.
Wow.
So she's one of my favorite humans on the face of the planet. And I was like, dude, your lights have to work. Your refrigerator isn't functioning. You have to, let me get an electrician over there. I'm like, did you get an inspection report? Yeah, I did. But the inspection report is fine. The agent said that everything was fine. I said, so you didn't ask for anything? So, no credits, nothing?
So the agent inspected the house, or the inspector did?
The inspector inspected the house. The agent said everything is fine. They didn't ask for any credits, didn't do a request for repair that she remembers. Now, she's a new homeowner, and most first-time buyers forget what happened during the transaction. So it just happens that way.
Sure.
It's normal. So who knows what transpired during that time? I could be totally wrong about it. But what is the truth is that when I got to the house with my electrician, he went downstairs. I'm upstairs with her. He went downstairs into this basement and he screams up the stairs and he goes, Stacy, can you guess what kind of panel is down here? I'm like, it's a Zinsco panel, right? I've never had a problem with one.
Right.
You know, you've inspected so many, not to say that they don't have problems, but I've never had an issue.
Never seen one, yeah.
Right. So every time, every time you've done an inspection for me and the buyer panics, I say, we should replace it eventually because it does have a recall and there are problems with it.
And known to be problematic.
Yeah. Yep. But, I have never seen one to date have issues because I have never seen one to date have issues, right? So it's just my experience. It doesn't mean it's the truth for everyone.
Right.
So I go downstairs and he goes, come down, you need to see something. He pulled out 3 breakers that were completely melted.
Wow.
Completely melted. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what could have happened, but the first thing that comes to my mind is your place could have burned down.
Fire. Yep.
And so he replaced them right away. We looked at all the other ones and I was like, dude, you have to replace this panel.
Just replace it. Just get rid of it.
We'll do the breakers now and everything will be functioning, but you have to eventually replace this panel. You should do it soon. So, and I want to bust on that other agent and be like, why?
By all means, bust away.
At the time she bought the property, I don't know what the cost would be now, but at that time it would be $2,100 to replace that panel.
Wow.
So, with labor and parts and everything because I've just recently gotten an estimate on replacing another one in a different property. So
sure.
So I was like, dude, it's $2,100. You couldn't have gotten her that $2,100 in credit. Wow. Or given it to her from your paycheck, which me, and I probably would have done. So because I've done it before, but and made sure that it got done.
Right. That's scary that she did just let that go for like 3 months with no lights.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that, homeowners. That's scary.
She was like, I was flipping on and off the breakers and the breaker was flipped off. But she had, it
was still off.
Right.
On and off, and it was still staying off.
Right.
When you thought it was on.
Which means there's a problem.
Which means that's what those breakers are known to do.
Right.
A lot of the old panels that I mentioned, when they have problems, it typically arises out of the breakers themselves. Like they'll be on, but they're actually off, and they'll be off and actually on. So they're dangerous.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking a circuit's off and you go to touch something, you're doing a repair, bzz,
yeah.
it's not good.
The remedy to this would have been if she would have used me as a real estate agent. I'm just kidding.